Nomadic Fanatic builds Diana a passenger seat. But will she survive? What's up and happy Monday, everybody. All right. We're going to start out with Line Screw 1. That's right, good old Line Screw. He is enjoying his little cruise. He's out there having a blast. So go over and check him out and follow him along on his out at sea travels. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Interesting. And again, he seems like he's having a really enjoyable time. Now let's talk about Gypsy for a little bit. So Wandering Gypsy, as we have been talking about a little bit here, she has new acquired land. Her and a couple friends bought like 40 acres. But apparently they're having some rules and regulations issues. I guess they said that they did a little bit of research. They called and they asked before they purchased the land, before they signed on the dotted line, crossed the T's and dotted the I's, they wanted to know if there was a whole bunch of rules and regulations that they had to follow. And they were told that basically all we require is a septic so you have a place to dump your stuff. And they said, okay. So they went ahead and they bought the property. Now they're running into all kinds of issues with being told this, that, and the other thing. And it's kind of confusing. I guess the one thing is they wanted to build a storage shed, to put different things, not a living space, a storage space. And they were told that they needed permits for any structure on the property. Then they were told that they only needed permit for a living structure. Then Gypsy herself isn't, but the other friends are bringing tiny houses onto the land to live in. And they were told that all you need to do is put it on blocks. And then they were told different, and they were told that they can only live on the land in an RV for 28 days every quarter. With every quarter, they're only 28 days within a quarter. And all kinds of other stuff, which is, according to Gypsy, was a very big shock and surprise.
So he tried to pay for his permit. And they were like, oh, well, before you pay your permit, we need to make sure that you laid foundation down. You did this, you did that. Now, mind you, a few weeks ago when we went in there and we told them about them having the tiny homes that are being brought in, they told us that all we needed to do was make sure that the tiny home was on top of cinder blocks and tie downs, have tie downs for it. That's all they told us. They never mentioned anything about foundation or extra permits or anything like that. And when my friends went there yesterday, it was a whole different story. And they started laying out saying that now we need to do this, we need to do that, more money. More money, and everything like that. And I guess what it comes down to is if you're going to learn any kind of lesson from this, if you're running around and you're in the market for a home base and you want to buy land like Tater and everybody else is doing, if you do call these folks and ask them or go into the office and say, hey, what's the deal? Record that shit. So when you go back in and they say, well, no, you need to do this, play it and go, see, this is what we were told. But even more than that, go to whatever that municipality, go to their website and look up the regulations for land, building structures on land, tiny homes, solar, whatever else you are thinking about doing, livestock, chickens, whatever. Look all that shit up. See it, read it, know it, print it out, because 9 times out of 10, when you go into these offices and you talk to these people who are just answering phones and pushing papers around, they don't know exactly what the rules and regulations are. And each little guy has his own thing. This guy's the code enforcement for this, and this guy does this, and this guy's in charge of shade trees, and this guy, they don't know. So do the research. We're in the day and age where everything's on the internet. Print that shit out. And when you go in and they say, oh, you need this, boom. No, I don't. Right here from your website, it says. And that's just
my little advice. But yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass when you go through stuff and you try to do the right thing and call in and plan ahead. And when you talk to people, yeah, it's not always the best thing. All right. Enough of that. Let's move on to the Tater. All right. So Tater Tap. Well, the first good news for Tater is that he got that laptop. That's right. That laptop that he was getting donated, that got sent to him. So he has that. Now he can edit his video. He's still recording on his iPhone though, because that's all he has, according to him, for camera stuff. And see, when we talked about this before, I told you, why are you going to beg for someone to send you a laptop? And look, when it comes, I know this video is probably a couple days old or whatever, but still, I said his big YouTube AdSense paycheck's going to come right around the same time that laptop's going to arrive in the mail. So why don't you just wait, get your YouTube check, and go ahead and buy yourself a new laptop instead of getting on here and telling people that, oh, I'm just asking, but having your Venmo and your PayPal and all that other bullshit on there listed so you can get a new laptop through donations or someone sending you one. I said it was going to arrive at the same time you got paid. But anyway. Now I know somebody's like, what he spent his money on me. Well, it's the whole thing is he has money for a seat, lumber to build all this bullshit, a seat belt, little gadgets for his phone so he can have his little thing to set up and record and all other stuff. So he has all this extra money, but he doesn't have money for the tools of his trade. That's the point. So, And little Tater, he's talking about travel and stuff, and he's still whining and crying because now he's got PTSD because he doesn't want to stay in a hotel anymore because he's too afraid. And he's still pushing the narrative of the staff went in and did this. Even after the police report said otherwise, he's still pushing this whole thing about,
staying in a room where you think you have security. And the same people who print the security cards can enter whenever they want and take whatever they want. So until I figure out a way to combat that, and I'm actually probably not going to tell you guys what's going on behind the
what's going on behind the scenes. We don't care. But anyway, so he's still pushing that narrative. Again, even though the police said, look, they mistakenly did this and they put it outside. It's not that they snuck in or creeped in and went in and put the stuff, according to what the report was after they did their investigation, the stuff was set outside and somebody probably walked off with it. But he's sticking with the story that they illegally entered his room and blah, 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 even though there's no charges pending. And before anybody asked, I did look. I attempted to look for a police report. I couldn't find one. If any of you guys out there decided to check and you found it, or you checked and didn't find it, or whatever, go ahead and let us all know in the comment section below. Because again, I went to that area and searched in the records and the police reports and the public record stuff, and I could not find that incident. But anyway, I guess on to the big news. The big news is that Diana finally has a passenger seat. That's right. The Tater himself builds a seat for Diana in the bus. Now, the first thing I want to know from you guys is, before we go any further, and I tell you what I think, with his skills, and we've all seen his carpentry skills or building skills, would you trust it? Would you sit in a seat that the Tater built? All right, now let's talk about this seat. First of all, look, I guess we'll say that it's a good thing that there aren't rules and regulations like they are with cars and everything else when it comes to these buses that are being converted into RVs. Or, wait a minute, is there? So let's see. Regulations for converting buses to RV. Yes, converting a bus into RV is subject to federal, state, and DMV specific regulations that govern classification, safety, and regulations. So there's a whole big thing, and you can go ahead and read that if you wish. There are some things that are noteworthy. And And it says here about the deschooling. You have to take all the school stuff off. And the whole thing is in state by state, as in we found out that in Arizona, you can't keep the bus yellow. You have to paint the bus a different color, even though you take all the stuff off, the flashing lights and the insignias and anything that makes it a school bus. You can't leave it that yellow color. But that's just in Arizona. And even down here it says state-specific rules. Each state's DMV sets its own RV classification standards, blah, 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 blah. And then again, I guess if you live in one of those states that don't require an annual vehicle inspection, I guess you can get away with all kinds of shit. Because let's face it, if you had to take that bus in to get a safety inspection every year, they would walk in there and the first thing they would say would be, no, this seat is not safe. It's not standard. It doesn't meet any requirements for safety or anything else. So, yeah, let's just say that right off the bat. And I don't care. You Nomadic Fanatic defenders, you can say whatever, but let me tell you this right off the bat. That seatbelt will not hold up to a high impact crash. I mean, just because he took that seat and the frame of the seat and used lags to put into the wood, that's exactly what he did. Now, you have the seat lagged into wood that's attached to plywood with drywall screws. And that is exactly what we have right here. And I mean, you can say what you will, but yeah, that's not going to hold up to anything. If you're relying on drywall screws, those lags don't mean anything. The only thing that those lags are doing is making sure that the seat stays on the piece of wood that is lagged to. But everything else is screwed into plywood that can rip and tear. And it's just drywall screws that he's using. It's not securing anything. It's not going to do a damn thing as far as safety goes. So, yeah, so I know someone's going to say something about, oh, well, no, he used lags, but that's, that lag, again, the lag is to a piece of wood that's attached with drywall screw. So, that thing is attached and they have a head-on collision or something and the bus comes to an abrupt stop, she's going to fly because she's strapped into the seat. She could fly forward, snap little drywall screws. Sure, the seat's still going to be lagged to the piece of wood, but everything's going to go. She could fall down into the stairwell. Sure, that's best case scenario. You fly forward and fall down into that damn stairwell. Worst case is you keep going and you go through that windshield and you wind up who knows where, strapped into a seat, like an ejector seat in a fucking airplane. That thing is not safe. If it's legal, I don't know. Probably in some states it probably is. But I'll tell you what, if you bring it here, I don't know about any other state, but here, yeah, that'll never fly. It's crazy. It's insane to think. And it's the same thing with the seat belt. It's not attached to a metal structure. It's not attached to a steel frame. It's not bolted to a floor or anything. It's lagged into a piece of wood. That is not safety. It cannot meet any kind of requirements or safety regulations whatsoever. So tell me, what do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think it's safe? Do you think it's legal? Would you sit in that thing? Would you trust some drywall screws on some plywood with some 2x4s? Would you trust that to keep your ass safe and secure during some kind of high impact crash? Sure, you're probably safe in a little fender bender because you're in a big bus. But yeah, I know I wouldn't trust it. And while we're on the subject, what do you think about all these people going out and buying trucks and box trucks and buses and all this other stuff? And just people like Tater just being able to just throw shit in there all willy-nilly and yeah, there's a toilet and there's a bed and here I got fucking cats all over the place and shit and this is my shower and this is my seat with seatbelt. And what's your opinion? I know a lot of you don't like government and don't think it's a good idea and you hate regulations or anything, but you're out there on the road driving around with people like Tater and others. He's not the only one that just go in there and have zero mechanical ability, and they're slapping together these old buses and saying, "Oh, look, it's a big old RV now. It's got a stove and toilet and water, and it's got propane tanks and all kinds of stuff." Yeah, you're out there driving around with that shit with some guy who can barely nail 2 fucking pieces of wood together. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Now, the other thing about that seat is where it's at. It's right there again. It's up against the countertop, the sink, whatever. He built that little armrest thing, which was another thing. He was trying to figure out how to put a hinge on it. And he went out and got these 2 exterior. That was the first thing. Didn't you ever hear of a piano hinge? Wouldn't that have been a nice, easier, quick, simple fix, a piano hinge, instead of those 2 big... Anyway, that's the least of it. But sitting there with your feet dangling down into the stairwell, well, if anybody that knows anything, if you're sitting and your feet aren't, secured on anything and they're just dangling, after a little while, your legs go numb, you cut off circulations. It's very painful. It's very uncomfortable if you do that. Or even if you do put your feet out on the dashboard there and you sit there with your knees locked for any amount of time, bouncing in a bus. Sure, Tater got his little air ride. He's going up and down, no problem. But if she's sitting there and she's got her legs straight out, and if she has her knees locked for a little bit and she starts bouncing, that's going to be painful. It's not a good placement. It's not safe. It's not secure. So, yeah. Good luck, Diana. Good luck. That's all I got to say. All right. Well, I will say this. The lovely couple, they actually finally did something together. Yes, Tater didn't go off all by himself and go hang at the beach. No, Diana took Tater to a nice little spot that she enjoys. That's right, they actually did some stuff
5 degrees
together.
Very comfortable.
Looky, they're all together. They're actually doing things together. It's not Tater all by himself. Are you shocked as I am? Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, she took him to this nice little spot, like I said, and not only that, but the couple went together to the movies. They went and saw that movie Michael. That's right, the new Michael Jackson movie. So they went and they did that together too. So I don't know, man. Things are looking up for the happy couple. They actually spent a couple minutes together. Who'd have thought? Go figure. All right, that's going to take care of this. But let's go and talk about the comment of the day real quick before we get on out of here. And it is... Nomadic Fanatic bought the ATV from Billy. Never heard another word about it. Is that in storage in Quartzsite with all his other crap? You would have thought he certainly would have had it at Tater Acres. And I picked that comment because, there's many, but I picked that one because, yeah, we often have spoken about that. A couple people were, I wonder what happened to that. And even I said, wouldn't that ATV be the perfect thing to be riding around in the mud at Tater Acres and getting from point A to point B and doing shit and dragging stuff around? Wouldn't that have been a great thing to have, since he had to have it and he spent money on parts to get it all running and everything? And so, yeah, we often wonder what happened to that ATV. So that's why I picked that as the comment of the day. So go ahead and leave a comment of what we asked earlier, or your opinions on things, and who knows, you too might pop up as the comment of the day.
There are many Diegos in this world, and my personal favorite is San Diego. And here I am on board Holland America's Eurodam in San Diego, and that's the way I see it.
What we do here is go back.